Alright, so back here for wrap up on the final video on the chassis of the Crazy Dad Lotus. I went through my files of some old videos that I've got and found that I actually still had one of going around doing a walk around of the chassis after I got it welded up, and so I've thrown this in on this one to start with, followed by the ones on how I cleaned up and cleaned off the rust and things and got it ready to paint, and then went ahead and painted it. And so throwing all of those videos here into this one, and that'll take us right up to the point then when we're done with the chassis and ready to start working on cleaning up the suspension parts and painting them and getting them put on. So that'll be what's next. So here you go, follow through on these videos and it'll help you see what we've done and give you some ideas maybe.
Okay, here it is. We've got that cross member put together. It had been in an accident and had damaged that cross member pretty significantly. They should have replaced it, but somebody had kind of just done a bare minimum job of fixing it. And actually, when the guy that I got it from tore it apart after they had driven it for 20 or 30,000 miles, he found that cross member, the welds were broken on it, and it was kind of just hanging on there, which is interesting if you know anything about these cars, because all of this chassis is made out of sheet metal that's folded and has creases to stiffen it up and things, and so all those welds were broken, and not all of them, but a big percentage of them were. And as you've seen by the pictures, I had to, in order to fix it, I had to go in and we cut this section out that went from here over to here. Rather than take the whole front piece off, I felt if I cut that section out and just repaired it where it was damaged, then I would still have this side over here, which was in pretty much factory condition. So I had it as a reference point and something to stabilize the whole thing and be able to make it work out correctly. So now we've got along this seam right here where I just flat cut through the sheet metal, I've got a second layer of reinforcements in there, so that not only do I have the weld coming down the seam, but I've got spot welds all the way around both sides of that too. So that should be plenty strong there. And then we took along that back edge back there, both top and bottom of this thing, we put a piece of kind of lightweight angle iron in there, and that will add, I believe, plenty of strength to this thing so that it should actually be stronger than it was originally. And now we've got it welded back in after taking a bunch of measurements, triangulation measurements from here to other points back on the frame to make sure that we had it in the right spot. And so I think we're good. Now I'm going to clean it up and probably put some paint on it of some kind to at least protect it. I don't know that I'm going to jump right on to continuing this because I have some other things going on in my life. But that's going to be my job today, is cleaning it up enough so I can get some kind of protection on it. So here's just a quick shot of some of the rust removal I've been doing. And most of this on this section of this chassis was really light surface rust, and I'm not going to be able to do the same thing. I've got a spot back in here that's got some really heavy corrosion going on it, and it's probably going to have to be sandblasted to get it as clean as we need to be. But on these sections, a lot of them looked like this to start with, and they've been able to clean up pretty good using these tools that I've got here. I've been using this dual action sander, orbital sander. It's an electric one. This is actually one of the best sanders I've ever had. I've used it for tons of different things on automotive stuff and body work. This one's got 350,000 miles on it probably, and it just keeps on going. And then I've got this little angle drill with this, I don't even know what you call it. It's kind of a big Scotch-Brite pad that I got at the hardware store. And that thing works fantastic for taking off a lot of this medium duty type rust. I've got this side over here I've kind of worked on lightly. I used the drill and the Scotch-Brite type thing to take off a lot of this undercoating and paint that this thing has had on it, and it just cuts right through it. When you get down to the places that are rusty, like this, it will actually take most of that off too, but you got to work on it quite a bit. And over time, the drill gets a little warmer than I like it, so I just shut it off and let it cool for a while. But what I'm really having the best luck with is using this orbital sander here to go over it first and get the bulk of everything off. I'm using about 120 grit paper on it. And whenever you do something like this, get really good sandpaper, because most sandpaper wears out quickly when it comes in contact with rust. And but I'm going to do that. And again, I'm not shooting for perfection on this job. I'm probably going to use some rust converters on it and some rust converting primer even to be able to get myself going here. But anyway, that's a picture of kind of what I've accomplished just probably in an hour or so here of working on it. And I'm going to keep going and see what it looks like here, but I think that's going to be a great way for us to go. Well, here it is after a full day's worth of grinding and cleaning on it, probably even a little more than a day. We've got it pretty well cleaned up. There's places that aren't perfect, but remember, this is a low buck restoration, and I'm not shooting for perfection here. If I was, I'd take it in and get it sandblasted or dipped. But I think we've got it pretty well cleaned up, especially the parts that are going to be showing. I didn't spend hardly any time on the inside of the frame rails, but I spent most of my time out here getting the outsides of it cleaned up, and got some spots there that were really quite rusty, and kind of got them down. I'm putting some rust converting primer with an undercoat on it. It's supposed to take that rust and stop it from growing any farther, and be able to get us where we want to on it. So my next step then, I'm going to spray some of that paint on it and let her sit, and we'll see how it goes from there. But I'm quite happy with it. This front cross member is not exactly beautiful, but I think it's back in the right shape and dimensions and square and strong. I think those are the critical things, because it's going to be hidden clear up underneath the body. So anyway, I am quite pleased with the way this is turning out. I'm going to get ready and hit it with some of my spray paint right now. I've got this stuff from Rust-Oleum. I'll just run a picture of it there. It's 2-in-1 rust reformer and sealant. It has a rubberized black coating on it. So we're going to give that a shot. I think it's going to do what I want on this. Since this is sheet metal, I don't just want to paint it. I want to protect it more, especially where it's under the car. That's why I'm getting the rubberized undercoating on it. I've noticed as I've cleaned this chassis up, it had been undercoated at one time, and every place it still had that undercoating, the metal under it was in really nice shape, like this spot right here, and I was able to clean it up really easily. And so I'm thinking that that's going to be a really good way. Then I can detail my suspension parts and other things that I put on it, and that will help the thing to look nice. So that's what I'm shooting for. So here we go. That's the next time you see it, it'll be black. Well, there it is. Over a day and a half worth of grinding probably and cleaning it up, and then about 4 cans of spray paint that had that rust killer and rubberized undercoating on it, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I think as I put the thing together, it's going to look really nice and probably I'm really happy with the way it turned out. And I think as I put the thing together, I think it's going to look really nice. And you know, really, like I said, my purpose here is not to build a show car. It's to build something that's going to be fun to get out and drive. And I think this is going to protect it so that I don't have to worry about things having a problem as we go along. But I think it's going to turn out really nice. And so there we go. That's my chassis for my Lotus Europa.